Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sherwood Shakeup, episode 7. My name is Matt Weinglass. I'll be your host today, and we have a really exciting show planned today. Lots going on this summer. We're heading to the end of August here, and we've had a pretty productive summer for Sherwood players. Welcome everybody who's been following us. We're really happy with our subscribers right now. We've only been on for about a month and change, and we already got up to over 500 subscribers. We're very, very happy. So thank you guys. Keep spreading the word. And if you're new to our channel, just check out what we're doing. Listen up. We're going to be doing some announcements right now. And you can always go to our website, sherwoodplayers.com, and find out more about how to get involved. Our community is expanding beyond just online. We have some in-person stuff happening as well. So we'll be talking about that before we introduce our special guest. Now, I would like to bring on our co-producer and social media director, Barbara Wilder. Barbara,
hello
welcome.
Again.
Hey, how are you doing in your neck of the woods today?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Very good. So, well, we've had a lot of crazy stuff happening this summer. Do you want to tell everyone about what we just did? We just did a pool party. It was a good networking event.
We finally had our Sherwood summer pool party, and I think it was a success for sure.
Yeah, it was great seeing people we haven't seen in so many months and months and months. And
right.
Some of the new people we have connected with on some of our projects, some of our bigger projects in the pipeline right now, a couple feature films. And I love the fact that we were able to bring in some of those producers. We had the producers and director of the film Masha's Mushroom there with us.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so we had one of the EPs there as well, and we were able to introduce them to some of the sales people and some of the Sherwood Players community. I guess we had just been offered the role of Sherwood Players as an official co-production company on the film, which was really exciting. And that just happened like a week before. So we were able to celebrate that. So that was awesome.
So what was your favorite part of the party?
Oh, well, that's so hard to say because I'm so busy trying to talk to people, make sure everybody's happy. My personal favorite was probably when I had 2 minutes where I was able to kind of take a little break and jump in the pool, and that was awesome.
Oh, really? I haven't even seen that.
It was literally 2 minutes, so you had to turn your head for those 2 minutes. I jumped in, got wet, got cooled off. It was really hot, and I was able to just swim around for a second, come back.
Unbelievable hot.
Very, very hot.
What was it, like 90 degrees or something? It was crazy.
It was 90 degrees. I'm surprised more people didn't go in the pool, but I know that people don't want to get their hair wet. I don't have that problem, but
I loved our DJs. I loved our red carpet. I think we got a lot of really amazing shots, actually. I looked through them today. They look really good.
Oh, the pictures, we finally got a set of, yeah.
I don't know if we can maybe show a few. Can you screen share for everyone?
The screen share, I don't know if it lets me do still files. Let me see if I can.
Well, I mean, it will be people will be able to look at it on our Facebook page soon.
Yeah, we're going to show them off on our Facebook group. But you mentioned red carpet. I know a lot of people are probably wondering, what is this red carpet at a pool party? What the hell is that? And
that was amazing. I loved it.
Our co-partner, Lou Coronado, helped put this together where we were having this. It was a backyard, hillside, Sherman Oaks. We had the pool kind of vibe to it, but right in the corner, right by the edge of the hill with the beautiful backdrop of the city, he was able to help us set up this red carpet in a backdrop, which had our sponsors on it. It had this energy drink, Amaze. They'd sponsored our event. We were able
from Carolina. Yes.
And we were able to reveal our brand new logo for the Sherwood Players International Film Festival. It was awesome. It was made by our animator, Fernando Mendez, who's going to be on our show next week, actually. But he came up with this really cool logo that, it kind of takes that leaf of our logo, the little leaf, the green leaf, and you kind of put it into this red kind of cool. It's really cool, red and black things. And so, yeah, Sherwood Players International Film Festival. It's up and running right now. So what do people need to do?
I
Barbara.
think
Yeah.
we have the regular deadline on October 3rd, exactly.
So
So everybody submit before October 3rd.
yeah, submit any short film. We're actually taking all genres of short films from any year, as long as they're completed, of course. And it's nice if you have a trailer or at least a movie poster and things that we can promote for you once you submit. Yeah, the deadline, October 3rd. So get that in. Go to our website to find the link to Film Freeway, where we're hosting on Film Freeway, and we're gonna have an in-person event for the finalists. All finalists will be invited out to our Hollywood Film Festival and Awards show in December, mid-December.
Do we already have a location for that?
That has not been announced yet, but it will be shortly. But selected, you invited to that event. So keep calendars open mid-December for a Hollywood movie premiere. You can watch your film on the big screen and celebrate with us. So that's happening.
And I think what's also really important to mention today is that on Thursday we have the Spectrum event coming up. Like, can you tell us who will be our guest speaker?
Yes, that's huge, and I'm so happy we got this together. I'm going to show this is our flyer. I'm just going to hold it up because I haven't figured the screen share on documents yet. But here is our
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, Spectrum 22. It's our 22nd workshop, but our very first one in this new theater space at the Complex Hollywood. So the Complex Hollywood, they've welcomed us in there, and we haven't been able to do an event because of the lockdown. So this is our very, very first one. We got the theater space to us. We have a very awesome guest speaker, E.G. Daly, coming in. She is one of the top voice actresses in Hollywood working today. She's done like basically every recognizable voice on every children's movie and TV show you can imagine. Rugrats, Powerpuff Girls. She even voices Babe in Babe Pig in the City. So she's remarkable. She's going to talk to us about voice acting, and it's great timing because we have 2 projects in development right now for our next business audio theater project. So we're going to be announcing auditions for the next one soon. And so it's very important you guys want to come out. If you're thinking of auditioning, hear directly from the horse's mouth, E.G. Daly. She's going to tell you exactly how the voice acting industry works and how she was able to be successful and get to the level she's at. She's going to take you through the steps. So please come out to that. You can get your tickets right on Sherwood Player website right now. And this is in 2 nights from right now in Hollywood at the Complex. So we're excited. Barbara, you're going to maybe film a little bit for us there for people who can't make it. We'll be able to upload it later. Is that something we're going to be able to do?
Yes, we will. Just capture what's going on, and
So
yeah.
For those of you who can't make it out, we're going to do our best to give you little clips, but the best is in person. Really, guys, it's really about these days, any way we can come out to something. We're very safe. We're following the COVID procedures. So yeah, we're following all the procedures. You can see everything's written out on our website when you go to the Eventbrite link. So get your tickets
And
now.
I already see people discussing in our comment section here in our live chat.
Oh,
yes.
oh, we have
Ryan is here, who will speak very soon.
Oh, yes.
He's like hashtag Ginger win.
Very cool. Okay. Well, thanks. Anything else for now, Barbara?
I think we're good for now, and I'm excited to hear what Ryan has to say. And let me know if there is a clubhouse today at 3.
I think we are going to be on Clubhouse at 3 o'clock. Barbara, please join us there when you're. Please come back and join us because we'll be in conversation on Clubhouse 3 o'clock. Those of you who don't have Clubhouse, please download the app. Look for the Sherwood Players Club, and we have a room, Power to the Artist, starting at 3 o'clock when we're done here. So thank you so much, Barbara, for the check-in, and take care. We will talk to you again very soon.
Yes. Okay.
Right. Awesome.
Talk to you later.
Thanks, Barbara. Okay. That's awesome. I'm really excited about all the stuff we have in the pipeline right now. And now Let's switch gears a bit. It's time to introduce our very special guest speaker. He's a very good friend of mine, but besides that, he is an accomplished speaker, worldwide speaker, and a best-selling author, and a ginger. And he likes putting things in threes, which is a very, very good number. 3 is probably the most important number you can have as an entrepreneur, as an artist, especially in Hollywood. Here today, please welcome our good friend, Ryan Foland.
Yay!
There he is. Ryan, how are you doing, buddy? How's it going?
You know, I'm doing good. I woke up and worked out first thing in the morning. I had a bunch of vegetables and greens and beans for lunch. So I'm feeding the engine with what I can and making sure that it runs as well as possible because I'm running. I'm throttling. There's a lot of cool stuff going on.
Awesome. Good to hear. As I was giving your intro, I was remembering that the number 3 came up in my mind. When I think of you, I think of the number 3, and it's something that it seems so obvious, but it's like it needs to be said and it needs to be thought about. It needs to be like time needs to be put into this because that number is so important. And I would like to just throw that to you right now, just off the top. If people are hearing me right now talk, you know what the heck is this guy talking about? I want to give it to the visionary himself, Ryan. Tell us, what is the significance of the number 3 and why am I getting so crazy about it right now?
Well, there's a reason why there were 3 little pigs, why there were 3 kings, why there were 3 bears that were testing 3 bowls of porridge, and there were 3 blind mice, and the first 3 digits of your phone number come in 3. The logic is that I think culturally, historically, and insert one more thing, just 3 seem to work well together. If I met you and you asked me what I did, and then I just said, well, I do this and 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 this. Yeah. I think that we have a tendency to want to share all the exciting things that we're doing, but there's also value in curating your own content in real time so that you can use it as a guidepost so that it creates a place for people to start and a place for people to go, because overwhelm is a real thing. And, you know, we're just inundated with so many messages. Think of your inbox. I don't know about you, when I get my inbox in the morning, I'm so good at identifying all the emails I'm going to delete without even looking at them. Like, I've gone from reading the full headline to like, I can just tell by who it's from. And I think that internally we're kind of processing the data that we receive. And so to do justice to the time that people are investing in spending time with you, keeping it short, keeping it simple, and keeping it to 3 things are good goalposts to try to kick through.
I mean, this is some excellent pieces of advice, and I've never heard it in, like, let's say an acting class or anywhere. Sometimes we hear the opposite. So artists sometimes, like, we'll be told, like, we have to explore and we have to find everything. We have to just dig and just find it all, put it all out there. And what ends up happening, especially in the artistic community, the artistic world, is that people want to hold on to all these things that they've discovered about themselves and all these things. And I think that's where you get these run-on sentences when people are networking and they're like, hey, what do you do? And as actors, oh my God, as an actor, how many things do you not do? You play every role. The whole point of acting is you're playing as many characters and you're showing, hey, look at my range. So we talk about range. And that seems to counter what you're saying, Ryan. And I think, and there's a reason, and that's, we're trying to connect these dots. And I just want to say before I pass it back to you, I love having you on the show right now because you're bringing me back to some of the basics of when we first reimagined Sherwood Players a few years back. And we talked about how can we connect these 2 worlds, and something that you did brilliantly. You said to me, you know, as an entrepreneur, you know, and as an artist, as both of these things, we realized that we have to embrace both of these worlds together. And I think that was kind of like the foundation that was set when we first started our Spectrum workshops. I remember we brought you in to talk specifically to artists about what does it mean to be, you know, to put yourself out there and to network and to say, hey, I need a job, hire me, or I have a script, read it. I mean, how do you do that? It's so hard to do that. People don't want to do all these things you're asking them of. And I just want to throw it to you. You've been able to do this in our community, and anybody listening to us right now to understand, yes, as an artist, we are entrepreneurs. We have to understand that it's a business that we're creating, and we're putting our brand together. And that brand is going to have to be simplified sometimes. It's going to have to make sense and have those three components you talked about. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of tie that together. But yeah, that's why I think it's so important you're on this show, particularly talking to the artistic community we have.
Yeah, I think it comes down to marketing. If you think
we had a little tech problem. Let's see if we can bring Ryan back in. Okay. Well, Ryan's working on that. But I have to say, I would have to say this. A master at so many things, but he's been able to get his brand down to three things. And it's how we introduced him as an author, a speaker, and a ginger. And those three things is what he puts forward, and it makes you more interested in hearing what he has to say and what he's about. So these are lessons that I think are very important for artists, because like I said earlier, we are basically just we're trying to figure out as what are we, actors, producers, writers, we're all these things, and it's like how do we put that together and make it make sense. Okay. Let's see if I can get Ryan back on here. Give me 1 second. We're going to do a little. Hold on. Oh, we got him back. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am back, and I'm now on my backup. So what the tech, right?
Okay. I'm not hearing you.
Let's see.
Is that me or you?
Might be. Let's see. Audio input.
I wonder.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Okay, Ryan, I think we can hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I think what happens is just let me plug my mic back in and see if I can still hear you. Okay.
Okay. So lesson number 3, something always will go wrong.
And it does, right? It does. It's crazy. And we have to improv.
Oh wow, look at this. I'm now on 2 different things. So
which one do you want me to put on? I have your
don't put this one. Get rid of this one.
This one's gone.
Done.
This one's in.
And we're back. Well, now I need to exit out of this.
Yeah. Okay.
Welcome to live television, everyone.
Right.
So I think I was trying to answer your question, basically saying it's all marketing at the end of the day. And so if you think about it, think about A Dame to Kill For, think about all these crazy plays that we put on back in the day. There's so much effort that goes into the art. But if we were just up on stage by ourselves and there was no one that showed up, what's the purpose? How does it really work? Like, what are we doing all of this effort for? And so I think as an artist, a lot of times we focus on the art itself, but we forget about the art of communicating to others why they should show up. And so I think that artists can be really good marketers at their projects or their range, but they don't always market themselves. And they may market the troupe, or they may market the production. But I think that one of the most valuable things is that you can always be marketing yourself. And whether you know it or not, people are judging you. And so it's like they're judging you and they're taking the information that they can find. But if you give them back some information that will help them judge you more accordingly, then you're actually taking a bit of you're taking a more participatory role in your brand and in the stage that you're on every day.
Right.
All the world is a stage, right? But
right.
We forget to let people know why they should show up. And then when they do show up, respecting the time that they're paying, because when you're talking with somebody and you're hoping that they're listening, you're hoping that they're paying attention, there's a value that's being transferred because they could be doing something else. So keeping things short and brief is a way to respect people's time. And then as they decide what's more interesting for them, you can sort of go down those rabbit holes. Because I might be interested in one element of your range, but if you tell me about all the ranges, then I'm probably not interested in hearing anything. So, less, I believe, is always more, but simple is not easy.
Simple is not easy. We want to keep talking. I think somebody said once, and we're talking about speaking, and you probably know this better than I do, but when you're preparing a 2-hour speech, you can do that in you can wing that, right? When you're
right, like the zero preparation I did for this right now.
Right. When we're doing an hour talk, it's an hour talk. But if I said, Ryan, I need you for 5 minutes, they're like, okay, I need to put some time into that 5 minutes and really think about that. But if I said, Ryan, I need you for 30 seconds, then what does that look like as far as preparation? That's interesting.
It's knowing that I'm not going to give you all the information. So it's about hoping to give you enough information for you to want more.
Mm. Right. So you also have to know who you're talking to also. That's huge, right?
Sure. Unless you're on a live stream and you don't know who's watching.
Right. Right. If you're on a live stream, yeah, then you're you don't know who's watching for sure.
But in a general sense, I do think that every artist is an entrepreneur, and you are really your own business. You're your own product. You're your own service. And so the sooner that somebody realizes that, and the sooner they know that they can participate in the success of that business, they're less reliant on everybody else and waiting for everybody else and not understanding what to do. It's like, well, why don't you focus some of that attention back on helping to develop who you really are and getting out there and just, I don't know, maybe it's, if you think about it, we are all in our own one-person show. Always. And so if you think about how much time and effort you would put into writing a one act or into writing even a scene or a set of dialogue and how deep you can dive into that rabbit hole, I don't think we put that much thought into what we say because it just comes out. And so one way to help yourself is to stop talking every once in a while. And then it may feel awkward, but it actually gives an opportunity for somebody else to participate. And there's actually studies that show that people look back on conversations with a positive outlook when they talk more. So the more somebody talks in a conversation, afterwards you're gonna be like, that was a great conversation. Why? It's because you were talking the whole time. And then the other person is just like, well, that was a waste of my time, or I wasn't that engaged. It's because they weren't talking. But if they were talking, then they would be excited about it. So I think I tweeted the other day when I was at dinner is being a good conversationalist is being good at letting other people talk. And so we forget about that. And if you keep things to 3, it helps you with that. But don't worry, I'm not going to keep talking. I'm just going to stop. Anytime now, I'll just stop. I promise, I'll stop.
I think we're both having a great conversation because I think we've been equally been. That would be the goal, right? In a 2-person, you want 50-50.
Actually, the goal would be to have the person who you're talking with talk more. That might actually help them see the conversation as more fruitful.
So your goal is not, so the optimal is not 50-50. It's to give the other person more. That's the,
if in a conversation you can get the other person to talk a little bit more than you, there's more for you to learn about them, which has its advantages. And when people genuinely ask questions and want to know more, you feel special. And as a guest, I feel special because you're popping me all these questions. But as a guest, I'm famous for turning it back around and even asking well, what do you think about that? Or how did that make you feel? It's the natural host in me. But yeah, getting people to talk makes them feel good.
Great. That's excellent advice. And it's so easy when you actually apply it because you're like, oh, wait a minute. I can just trust this person is going to want to share and going to want to go there. And how cool. All I have to do is listen. Oh, that's awesome. So
now I will share a trick. Okay. Well, I'll give you 2 because what I just did there was a strategic interruption. I interrupted in a way that wasn't rude, but showed you I was excited. I had a little bit of body language with it. And it was at the time when you were in between thoughts. So it wasn't a really disruption, but it was a strategic interruption. And the thing I wanted to share with you is, I believe it was my 4th TEDx talk, and I was fascinated with the concept of the pause. This thing that we talk about, that we know has power, but I really wanted to do some research and find some science on it. And I found that there was a global linguistics study that specifically was documenting and recording the time between when I finish talking and you start. And then went all around the world watching and timing people. So there's a full bell curve. On one end, you had the Norwegians, who they'd finish talking, and then there'd be a big delay. And then the next person would talk. And then there'd be a delay, and then the next person would talk. To the full other spectrum for the Chinese, it was boom, 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 boom. There's hardly anything, any gap between. But right in the middle, in a true bell curve, it was found that statistically significant, the average space between when I finish talking and you start is 0.2 seconds.
Wow.
Now, to give you reference, watch real closely here.
Okay.
I'm going to show you something that is 0.3 seconds. Ready? Blinking your eyes takes about 0.3 seconds. Okay? So on average, faster than a blink of an eye, you have people that are jumping on each other. And I bet you if we look to our conversation, there's probably even no gap because we're like meow, meow, jumping on each other. Like we're just fitting right there. The fascinating thing is that research has showed that between the time that you receive information, put the words together in your brain, come up with what you want to say and say it, can be as fast or short as 0.4 to 0.6 seconds. All happens very fast. But if the average distance or gap between the conversation is 0.2, yet it takes us 0.4 to 0.6 seconds to really put something out there, then what happens is we're not listening to each other. We find something that you said, think about what we're going to say, and then all we're doing is just waiting to jump and pounce that in there. And so a trick to being a better conversationalist, aside from keeping things to 3 and just keeping brevity, is to pause when you're done talking, or pause and let somebody finish and just pause because they might have something else to say. It's not always a 1 for 1 for 1 for 1. Like if you give a little bit of space, they might continue. And so as a trick, when you're talking with people, when they finish talking, give them like a couple seconds and think about it and be like, Then they might just keep talking. And, you know, the more they talk, the better they're going to feel. The better they feel, then the better they're going to think about that conversation in a positive light.
That's very now everything you're saying, Ryan, it takes a lot of focus, a lot of concentration, a lot of confidence too, because you have to have that belief that and kind of, I think, just, I don't want to say faith, but just this sense that it's okay if I don't get my point in. It's okay if the person insists on going off on a little tangent and they just have to share this thing with you, and you made that mental note. I have something important. You know what? It's okay. We'll get back to it later, another time. But it's more important to let this person go. I think it takes those skills just to relax and be okay with the outcome. Especially if you're in a networking situation where you're having a one-on-one and you don't know how long you have, and maybe someone's going to get tapped on the shoulder and get taken away, and oh my God, I only have this little bit of time to pitch myself or to bring this thing up, and it's okay. We can continue the conversation later. It's totally fine, and later will come soon enough. So,
and people, I think, can feel when you're hungry and when you're trying to put in all the information that you want, and I think it can work against you, as opposed to knowing your intention and knowing what you want out of the situation, right? So you're meeting this person. A question that I really believe we don't ask ourselves and that we don't think about enough is, right now, what is the thing that you need the most help with?
Mm.
Simple question, but it's hard to answer on the spot. And so if I'm meeting somebody, or if I have somebody who's a guest on my podcast, if I look them up and see what's happening, I'll think about, like, what is the one thing that this person could help me out with? Would it be an introduction to that person? Would it be just sort of building rapport with him over a few times to maybe cash in on something later? And when you have that sort of idea of what I need help with, what you need help with, then you can use that as a deciding factor of what you're trying to get across and what you might be trying to ask.
I love it. I love it. Very cool. Ryan, I want to switch gears a little bit because you mentioned something earlier about we're all in the middle of a one-man show. We don't know it, a one-person show. And I think that's very relatable to an artistic community who might be watching. And, because as actors, we actually do produce one-man shows, and we figure out ways to communicate our stories to larger audiences or to small audiences. So whoever is interested in engaging, we have a show that we're putting all this thought and production into, because we want to be open. We want to be honest. We want them to connect with something that we have to offer. And the fact that you're relating that to everyday life, this is where I like to bring up your book, because when I read Ditch the Act, that's all I could think about was this one-man show concept. And what you're doing in Ditch the Act it's so relatable. And I want more artists to be aware of this journey you're taking personally and being very open about. So tell us, what was this journey like for you, creating the book, writing the book Ditch the Act, and what is like some of the main lessons that can come out of that for specifically for artists?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, this one-man show tie-in, so I'll try to tie it in with that.
Okay.
The one-man show that I was producing well before the book was one where I was really trying to act a part that I didn't fully have the experience for. I wanted to speak professionally. I had gotten a taste of it, and I thought, wow, if I can speak and make thousands of dollars at everything and travel all over, like, the idea of it was very appealing. I'm like, this is great. So I'm a speaker. That's what I am. All right. And it was a role. It was an act that I was doing. I was dressing like I thought I should. I was building a website around what I thought people would want. And I got zero traction. I wrote a whole bunch of blogs, and I made a bunch of videos, and I did what you're supposed to be doing, at least what I could find what you're supposed to be doing. And what I realized is that I was doing the right things in the wrong order, and I wasn't sharing the actual story arc. Okay. If you think about a one-man show, and I've seen your one-man show, it's not it just doesn't hit a total flat line. You're not just saying, this is what's amazing, and then this happened, and things are great, and then I'm amazing, and then this happened. It's like, without conflict, there's no drama. And if you want to talk about something that everyone should understand, is your hero's journey, right? So I was trying to portray a hero that was not flawed, that didn't have challenges, that was hiding things from his past, wasn't really willing to accept the mentor, didn't fall back after I had already gotten a little bit closer, didn't have my personal reckoning. All of these things that a classic hero, or even to the extreme, a Byronic hero, why we like Indiana Jones, why we are compelled to feel like we are Luke Skywalker. And so if we have a personal show and you're not truly showing the ups and the downs, then it's not entertaining. People don't relate to it. And it just looks like one of those maybe B-rated movies that everything is over sensitized and you don't watch it.
So
maybe it fills the space, but it's not there. So my one act was not exciting. It was not entertaining. Nobody wanted to pay for it. Nobody wanted to follow it. Nobody was tuned into my channel, essentially. And so for me, where the transition, the junction that I recognize is that I was trying to fake it to make it. And there wasn't that authenticity. And so my business partner at the time, Leonard Kim, he was the exact opposite. He was not trying to fake it. He was as transparent as possible.
Mm.
Almost, emotionally, throwing up through words in Quora posts that explained all of his demons and all of the things that he was thinking and how much of a failure he was and everything that he was thinking, like the total polar opposite. But he had 10 million reads on his content. He was getting featured in major publications. He was getting asked and requested to speak at places that I wasn't. And when I met him at a fortuitous sort of exclusive in the Hollywood Hills at Keith Ferrazzi's house entrepreneur party that I sort of snuck my way in through a relationship, I wasn't really even supposed to be there. When we first met, we met under the context of some guidance by Keith Ferrazzi that really was this impetus for looking at things a different way. Keith Ferrazzi, one of the youngest CMOs in a Fortune 500 company, he's got a book called Never Eat Alone, which is a fantastic must-read networking book. He's got Who's Got Your Back, which is, again, about strategic alliances. And his latest book is Leading Without Authority. So this guy is a thought leader. This guy is amazing at what he does. So I'm in his house, crazy Hollywood Hills house, and he brings everybody into one room and he says, put your phones away. Everybody put your phones away, put our phones away. And he started to share some real personal stuff with us, like stuff he was dealing with his kids, with his relationship. And he was admitting to everyone, I'm having a really hard time right now. I'm working through it, but I just want you all to know where I'm at. And everybody was like, did he just say that? Like the guy who we all held up in high esteem that like has these books, that has this authority, that like we're at hit. What? Mm. And there was just like just a feeling throughout the room. It was we all seemed to be like here in this intimate environment. And he said, what you're all feeling right now is the power of candor. Now, you all know me from what you see, but it's important that you understand how people really are behind the scenes, and that is how you connect. And he said, so today, when we go to dinner outside, you're going to be grabbing a plate. You get your food. On the bottom of the plate, there's a number, and there's 7 different stations. He had like 7 terraces on his. It was crazy. So I end up at a table, and the directions, there's somebody at each of the tables, and instead of introducing yourself with all the amazing stuff that you're doing, all of your range, you literally had to stand up and say, this is what's going wrong personally, and this is what's going wrong professionally. Mm. That was the prompt. And so I stood up and I was like, well, I want to be a speaker, and I have an idea for a book, but I can't seem to get any traction on it. And the whole social media thing, I have no idea what's going on with it. I sat down. People shared. This guy stood up and he said, well, I've got 10 million reads. All these social media followers, everybody wants me to speak on stage, but I'm just not happy. My girlfriend just left me and I don't know what to do. So the whole thing that happens when you start to share what you're having challenges with is it gives people the opportunity to see how they can help. Now, if this guy just said, I've got 10 million reads, I get all these speaking engagements and I get featured in all these publications, and if that was the end of the story, there'd be nothing for us to connect on. But I went up to him afterwards and I said, I can help you if you can help me. I said, I need help with this whole social media and branding thing. And I can definitely help you get a girlfriend by helping you become a more confident speaker in the way that you show up. And he's like, deal. So that was how we started. Now we are the 2 most opposite people in the world. And I think that's what made for this magical book, where I learned the power of sort of sharing my softer side and sharing what's going wrong. And he helped to learn from me some skills that he didn't have. And so for me, that when I started to then ditch the act and actually shared the challenges that I was having, I was honest with my lack of progress. There just became this authenticity about what I was doing at that moment. And you know what? It became my hero's journey. And so I owned being at the depths, and I owned my rise, and I had these challenges, and I was more willing to find mentors, and I was able to be open to seeing that my one-man show was being written in real time. And it was like more of like a live performance. And so when I started to incorporate that into what I was doing, the content I was creating, things just started to actually work and happen. I started getting featured in publications. I got verified on all 3 Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We got a book deal. We published the book. I've spoken all around the world. And I think that the end results ultimately came from a decision that I made to just be a bit more open about what's really going on. And the difference between that and what I was doing before is that before I was convinced that people only cared about my story of success. So I was chasing after it, and I was trying to find all the stuff that I could be like, look at the success. But what I realized is that people care more about how they see themselves in my story. And so you go to my website, you read my about, you learn everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I've had people reach out to me and literally be like, Ryan, I feel like I know you just because of what's out there. And so for me, that's what ditching the act is. It's when somebody says, how are you doing? Giving them an honest answer of how you're doing. Maybe I just had a podcast with somebody. I asked him, how are you doing? And he went like this. He went, that's a great question. I feel a little heaviness, but I feel kind of alive and vibrant. And I'm really excited to be here right now. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, you just gave me a real-time snapshot of what's happening in real life. And that kind of transparency can translate to the stage. If you step up on stage, not like in a play, but if you step on stage and you're actually nervous and you're like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm a little nervous. You guys don't know, but you're pretty intimidating. You could get a little laugh there and be like, how about we all just, do you mind helping me out a little bit? Let's all take a deep breath together so I can calm down, okay? All right, I feel better now. Like, if that's actually what's happening, like that's a way to stand out and really connect with your audience. So that's a long way of saying in your one person play, not gender specific, in your one person play, you are acting every day. But it's once you realize that your ability to share the stories as they happen and share them in real time, and not now for me, I don't do business with Leonard anymore. And we sort of parted ways, and I left the company that we created because his ditching the act was just too much for even me. Mm. And when you share too much, you can push people away. Mm. And so what I think is amazing about the book is that it shows how to ditch the act in a way that's not overwhelming, that doesn't make it seem like you're trying to fish for compliments, showing people who you really are, as opposed to it being some tactic or gimmick that you can use. And so I wish him the best in what he's doing. And I really enjoy what I'm doing, but we're both ditching the act in different degrees. And that's what I think we can all try to do more of to find more success, is to challenge yourself to really share that hero's journey, the ups and the downs, because the drama, the conflict, even if it's small little things, that's what we all relate to.
I love it. And I love that you were able to stand up to Leonard and figure out, the two of you guys, that maybe it was time to part ways, and you understood that you had differences of approach. But like, people listening and being part of your story and hearing you speak now, and whoever's listening to him still now, are able to pull what they can use from your particular journey. And what I like about your journey, Ryan, is that you're finding a balance. You're saying, this works, but I'm gonna use this to a point where it still feels authentic. If I use too much of it, it's not going to be authentic anymore, which defeats the initial purpose, which was ditching the act and being authentic. So you're finding that balance. And I would recommend anybody listening to this right now, as an artist, understanding you have to balance it. You still have to be presentable and professional. You have to be, put your hand forward, look people in the eye, not look like you just got done with an all-nighter of partying or some crazy fight with a girlfriend or some, whatever drama. Like, you still have to be presentable and say, hey, I'm here. It's good to be here. Good to meet you. But
when somebody asks you how you're doing, yeah, you actually give them an honest answer.
Yes. And you make them feel, and people feel comfortable when you're honest with them, but don't go overboard. Don't be like,
in the book, I talk about 5 levels of exposure.
That's right.
So starting with level 1, you can get comfortable. Level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5 is what not to share. And so, when
can you give us an example, Ryan, of level 5 of what not to share?
Sure. So one easy example is if you do have a day job and you understand what your employer allows and doesn't, if you work at a job where, you know, you're randomly drug tested, and then you're out there and you're talking about being high, then obviously that's something that you should be aware of, right? So things that are going to get you in trouble with your job or with the law, as well as things that will create just one side or the other. And that can be extreme politics, extreme religion, extreme sex, extreme things that people are either what, or they're like, rah. Now, I know you're super political, and we've had conversations as a sidebar about being aware of how you're presenting the information in a way that it might be divisive. And so I think that's a big challenge for people when it comes to wanting to be authentic in their personal beliefs, but also knowing that there's a time and place, and understand if you post a certain thing about a certain topic, you very likely could get backlash. And if you're understanding and aware of that, then you won't be sort of like, you know, you won't be surprised by it. So.
Right. And I think about that all the time. And I think about how to present Sherwood players as a brand that is relatable and fun and accessible to people, but professional, but also honest. And these are very difficult things to juggle. For example, last week's episode, our special guest was a good friend of ours, Patrick Kilpatrick, who is a seasoned Hollywood actor. He's done over 200 films. He's worked with Spielberg and all the biggest directors, biggest stars. He's been around for decades, and he's working with us on my project Insecurity. So he was on the show not to talk about Hollywood. That would have been awesome, actually, have him talk about his career and relatable items to hardworking actors and how they can get to his level. But I actually had him on the show for a different reason, Ryan. I don't know if you knew this, but Patrick was running for governor in the recall election of Gavin Newsom. And it's interesting because he has a story to tell. I sat down with him, had coffee with him a couple of weeks before to kind of feel him out, have a conversation. And I asked him what his platforms were. And I was thinking about, and he knew that we're not a political platform. I'm not here to tell people who to vote for. That's not what I'm trying to do. But what I did like about it was that he was sharing an authentic journey he had, some aha moments that we talked about aha moments in other conversations. We might want to get into, if we have a time, we should maybe get into it today. But having an aha moment, what I saw with Patrick was he had his one-man show or one-person show that he was revealing to me everything that he went through in the last year and a half during the lockdown and the pandemic, and it brought him to a realization of stuff he wanted to do and go on a new journey, a new chapter of his life. And one of those policy, and I think this was the thing that did it for me, that allowed me to say, you know what, I want you on the show. He said, I want filmmakers to have a better experience in California with the things that are offered and not offered here currently. And I want to have, tax credits, and I want to have incentives for people to make their films here. And I thought that was a great platform. I don't think you necessarily have to be, have an R next to your name or a D next to your name or an I next to your name for any of that to be true. And people don't necessarily have to agree with him. But for me, I was like, you know what? Why not bring him on and have him tell his story and what he, and I thought it was a perfectly good choice. Some people told me, don't do it. Don't go into politics on Sherwood. But I said, am I really going into politics to have somebody tell their story? I'm not here to say, vote for this guy, don't vote for this guy, but let's hear his story. I don't know. I'll pass it to you. What do you think about that, Ryan?
Well, I think it goes to your Sherwood player tagline, character driven. Mm-hmm. And the way that you're describing, I haven't seen the show, but the way you're describing, the focus was on his story and his experience. And I think that people can probably see themselves in elements of that story, and that's what might make it compelling. I think if this were a sort of super skewed program that was only giving one side of information and was being aggressive about it and maybe misleading, I think that's when you get into a lot of trouble. But I think, there's a lot of characters. We've known a lot of characters who've been in and out of Sherwood players, and they're all from all walks of life, right? And so to celebrate that diversity and celebrate the differences that people have, I think is one thing. I think if you're like attacking science or you're trying to create misinformation, I think that is what becomes really dangerous. And so it's one thing to share your story. It's another thing to try to manipulate or to provide information on things that really don't have factual basis as though they're truth, to really just sort of, it's almost like a movie that's dubbed as a non-fiction, but it's really fiction. Like, the Academy wouldn't let that go through. You can't have, here's a story based on a true story, but what if that story isn't true? Then it's fiction. And art is all about interpretations and fiction. So I think that's where it would be, you could feel comfortable in you bringing people and showing how they're character driven and what they're up to, but just making sure that it's in a way that is supported by the reality of what can be proven based on research and data. And I think that for me is when that line is crossed, that's when I think you will create divisiveness. And that's when one side trenches in and the other side trenches in and nothing happens. So for me personally, I have a zero politics policy on my social accounts. I just don't talk about it. Now I have no problem talking in person or sharing my, my thoughts otherwise and supporting voting and voting myself and all of that. But you just have to know that controversial topics will create controversy possibly in your audience. And you and I know this because we've really stirred the pot in a lot of the stuff that we've done. And what does it do? It makes people see where they're at in that story. And sometimes it's self-reflection, sometimes it's awareness, sometimes it's shock, sometimes it's hate, sometimes it's fear. But art really helps bring those emotions to light. And so we can't deny them or suppress them, right? Power to the artist, but just be responsible when you're telling stories.
Power to the artist, responsibility, and professionalism. The two things I will say for sure that Sherwood Players has always been about is power to the artist, which is really taken from the old adage, power to the people. We're always, and that's the Sherwood brand really originally, where we took
Well, Robin Hood was all about stealing from the rich and giving it, not so much stealing from the rich, but just giving to the poor and really finding those underserved communities.
Finding ways to uplift people, giving them a chance to be heard. And that's why I will also say Sherwood Players is definitely against censorship. We are for platforms to be available for people to have conversations and be able to tell their stories, as long as they do it in a responsible way, of course. But let's make sure that everybody has that opportunity to tell their stories on any platform that they can get onto. And let's just be about that. And I think that's what we're about. And let's have debates and let's do things like that. But let's also be careful about what we put out there. So it's all drawing back to your lessons from Ditch the Act, Ryan, and everything that's been talked about in this hour. So I think it's all connected. So thank you so much for participating with us today.
Yeah. And one of my favorite speaking, I would say, tools is what's called a closed loop, right? So you open a loop somewhere and then you close it later on. And so I'm going to close the loop with what we opened initially about information overload and how to be a good conversationalist, which is to be good at having other people talk. And so I would just share that no matter what your opinions are, what you're passionate about, or what your story is, when you are sharing, just make sure that you're also open to hearing and to listening. And I think when that element is missing and you are just talking and you're telling your story and you're driving it home, but then you don't stop, you don't listen, you don't see that there's another person in that conversation, then that's where communication falls apart. And that's where people resort to other tactics to get their points across or to want to be heard. So don't forget that in telling your story and how you as a character have been driven and what you continue to do, remember that this is a type of one act or one person show where it's important to include the audience too. Absolutely.
Well said, Ryan. Ryan Foland, where can we find you online?
Ryan.online. It's just simple, Ryan.online. I have a new free course, which is all about how to come up with a side hustle idea, how to validate it and communicate it. So if an artist is interested in seeing what entrepreneurship looks like, and if their idea that they choose is themselves, you can work through the process. And you can find that at ryan.online/start. Ryan.online/start. And, in true performance format, what I will share with you about Ditching the Act is something very particular. Here is the deal. Let me give it to you real. The key to connection is to learn to reveal, because you are not perfect and neither am I. And that is the exact reason that we see eye to eye, because everybody's different, but we're all the same. To be perfectly imperfect is how you win the game. And if you only showcase good and do not share the bad, you will miss connections that you never knew you had. Facebook, Twitter, Gram, are you LinkedIn? Are you TikTok something trying to fit in? Stop worrying about everybody else. Focus on being your authentic self, because when you learn to ditch the act and learn to be yourself, you open up a window to have people help you out.
Awesome.
Boom.
Cool. Very good. Mic drop. Ryan.
That's more of a mic throw, but yeah, a mic drop over that way.
Mic throw, mic drop. Excellent, Ryan. Ryan Foland, a regular contributor to Sherwood Players for years. Executive producer on some of our biggest projects, Tupamaro Urban Gorillas, you can find on Amazon Prime, Crash the Animated Series, still in development, and of course the Barefoot Spirit audiobook out right now on audio platforms, and we have a few other ones in the works as well. Thank you, Ryan Foland, author, speaker, Ginger. There's your three, baby. Ryan, thanks for having you. We're going to go over to Clubhouse in a few minutes, so please, everybody, join us there. If you don't have the app, download it. Go to the Sherwood Players Club, and you can find us in Power to the Artist in just a few minutes. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Ryan. And we'll see you guys in a few. That's the show.